morning, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to spend the day with us. I'm here to cheer you all up. We'll be taking Bitcoin at the end of the presentation. You all have water to take into the bunker for the impending nuclear war. So my job is to talk a little bit about the things we've done over the past year, what we've got coming up, and some of the themes that kind of dictate how we think about the world and how we see growth and the things that we see as a stimulus to growth. But also to talk about the other people, the other HPD people that are here and their role for today. We probably have a bigger HPD team here today than we've had at any conference ever. Lots of them not always directly in front of clients. Because this year we wanted to make our conference slightly different and not just talk about what we already have, but to talk about things that we're building, ideas that we have, because this is a great opportunity for us to get proper broad engagement from our clients. And as you've invested the time in coming here, we would like to pick your brains a little bit and get some feedback. So in terms of the way that we think as a business, there are certain themes when we look back over what we've done and when we look forward to the map of what we see in the future and how we build our products and how we want to engage with you. Some of our innovation comes from conversations with our clients, but other innovation comes from other areas. And we are particularly interested in not just what you're doing as a business, but actually what your customers are doing as a business. Because ultimately, we are trying to provide products and services to you because you need those to leverage a product or a service into your market. Open banking, we go to many open banking conferences. It's kind of the big buzz conference, certainly in London at the moment. But we can see a huge amount of opportunity in the area of open banking, not just because there's the ability for someone to go into their bank portal and see potentially a competitor bank account. It's actually not that simple because that type of open banking integration, that's the obvious use case. We can see something actually much more important about open banking. And it's actually about what you can get by understanding what's in that data source. And it's about how you can use the knowledge that open banking will give you to deliver something that's quite different in the marketplace, to deliver services that are bespoke and that are tailored. And this isn't anything new in the general market, but it's quite new thinking for financial services to think about our products in this way. If you go into a supermarket, they are already doing this to you. It is no surprise that when you go to Sainsbury's, the little tickets that come out the till when you pay are specifically related to something that you have purchased in the past, or something you have purchased at that point in time. They are predicting and they are tailoring. It's their way of bringing you back through their door. It's a really competitive market. It's dominated by a very small number of players, and they're looking to find a very personal way of engaging with you to sell and to make you come back. And actually, that's the sort of thinking that open banking can leverage into our space. It can give you the ability to not just sell an invoice finance deal, a online banking deal. It's not just factoring, it's not just invoice discounting, but it's selling a product that's much more tailored to the needs of your customer, because actually you'll understand better what your customer's doing. And that is the one huge advantage that the invoice finance space has over other financial services. And Kevin mentioned it in his presentation earlier. You're actually better at knowing your customer because you don't just know what's on the title of the door. You don't just know the principle of the business. You understand and you see the very DNA of that business in operation. You see what they're selling, who they're selling to, the size of those transactions, the struggle to get some of those transactions paid. If you have access through open banking to transactions in their bank account, you'll see another picture of your client, maybe one that's completely invisible to you if you're only looking at ledger transactions. So open banking gives the opportunity to latch onto another set of data and start to really understand what type of tailored and bespoke services that you can offer. We have just completed our first open banking integration. Our partners from FI are here today, and you'll see them on the panel next, and we're demonstrating the piece of work that we've delivered. That's our first open banking integration, and we can see others on the horizon because we see that we can provide you an opportunity to engage with your current clients and beyond, actually in a very simplified way. But that's all underpinned by APIs. Everything in the market at the moment is kind of moving into a much more API direction. For us as a business, we're a great fan of APIs. We've had a long-standing API toolkit. Within the market, it's an easy, secure way to interface with third parties, and it gives us something that we couldn't have otherwise. It gives us an opportunity to scale the type of products we can purchase and that we can provide to you. It gives us the opportunity to to deliver products in a space that we are not the experts in, because we don't need to be. We can partner with experts in niche areas, and we can interface through an open API. So whereas the cloud accounting packages have been very good at providing open and publicly documented APIs, actually this way of communicating rather than old-fashioned file exchange is really something that we're looking forward to engaging with. And all of the third parties that we're looking to work with, all of those engagements are API-based. All the APIs are going to do is give us more data. But actually data, as you've seen from the way the cloud accounting packages are now approaching the access to data, there's a huge value in understanding what that data is. So getting hold of data actually is relatively simple. Whether that data is from your own client accounting software, whether that's bank account data through an open banking API, whether that's credit transactions through working with a credit agency. The difficulty with data is knowing what to do with it. Getting data is easy. Understanding what that data means and how you can use that data, now that is something different. And that is data expertise. And as a business, HPD, we can give you access to data. We can work with you to provide access to huge areas of data. But what we really need is to work with you to understand what you want to do with that data. Having data is great, but unless you can do something with it to provide a better service, a newer product, something more innovative, then having data for data's sake is pointless. And actually, we think that both HPD as an organisation and you as part of our HPD family, actually between us, we probably have some great ideas of what we can use that data for. And actually working together, we can probably start to produce some great products for your customers. Which brings us on to partnering. We do have particular partners that we're working with in product development to develop and leverage new opportunities, open banking being just one. But actually, it's the partnering with all of you that we really, really want to start developing further. We talked about this at the conference last year about kind of having user forums. And it's actually been really difficult for us to gather clients together, to actually have people talking in a productive manner, because I suspect the topics we were talking about were actually too wide. We've had one particular engagement for Gemini, for our extractor product, for a very small number of clients, that's informed another piece of R&D that you'll see in the rooms next door later today. And that's been really successful. And a huge thank you to all of those Gemini clients that contributed to kind of the work on the universal adapter, because we've taken those ideas and they are now incorporated or they will be incorporated into our first delivery of that product. Together, we can produce better products with APIs, access to better data, and actually working together. We don't need to worry about, what Google and Amazon and Apple may do, because actually they are generalists, but you are experts in a space. You understand your customers, and actually having access to the data and the right technology, you can start to pull these things together in some really interesting customizable products. Which brings us to the last piece, experience. So customers aren't brand loyal. Brand loyalty is kind of an old thing. What they are is experience loyal. And that's not just the software's nice and easy to use, because actually making software simple to use is incredibly difficult, number one. But actually it's how the software feels and how they feel about you. They want to feel you're on their side. To move forward and to really grow markets and grow opportunity and develop new products, it's not just a matter of having nice, easy-to-use software. It's actually a step beyond that, and using information that you'll gather through open banking, through data, through applying that to new products to actually be your client's trusted advisor. That's how you will extend the life of your client, and that's how you will get additional value out of your client relationships, because you want them to come to you first. You don't want them to ask you for a prepayment increase, for a line increase, or what products you've got to sell. What you want is to be able to go to your clients and say, you're a seasonal business, you're going to have a shortfall, probably for the next 3 to 4 months, so this is what we're offering you, and this is how you access it. Or we've seen that you've got a particular concentration to this client in this industry, and actually this is their prepayment rate. That's not our experience of someone in this industry operating. What you could do is you could try this and actually bring that down, and that will give you a benefit into your account. It's actually doing something, an advisory service for your customers that means they will come to you first. You don't want them to be looking for who's going to provide a financial product. You want them to come to you and say, what product can you provide me? Or I have this problem and you have a solution. And that solution needs to be easy to deploy, needs to be easy to access, clearly needs to be on a mobile phone. Potentially, it needs to be voice integrated. I read a really interesting article. In fact, Paul Bow, the commercial director, mentioned it in a meeting when we were talking about voice integration, about the death of the keyboard. There are predictions within the next 5 to 10 years, keyboards will be obsolete. Keyboards are largely unchanged. You may have them on a phone touchscreen, but a QWERTY keyboard, it's largely unchanged. Voice is different. And actually, lots of the people that we're trying to innovate and provide products to aren't at work and then they go home. Everything is blended. There's a new definition, the slashy, because they are a business owner, they may be a dog walker, they may be a parent, they may be a school governor, they may be involved in a sports club. And when they're doing these different roles, they're not picking a different technology for each one. They're not saying, oh, this happens on my mobile phone, but this I need to be on my PC. It just happens. So actually, some of the solutions that we need to leverage some of these themes to build are things that make the point of access easier and more frictionless. So just a little look back over what we've done over the last year, kind of the bigger projects. Our first kind of big change we undertook is we engaged a third party to do a really big review of our Gemini data extraction offering. And again, thank you to all the clients that he spoke to. He did visit some of you. And the aim of that review was twofold. It was actually to look at the market in general. We had a kind of a real feeling about kind of where the data extraction market was going. But actually, was that the real market's view? That was an HPD internal view. Was that really the market's view? So part of the research was looking generically at the market, about what's available and who the competitors are, and should we build our own? Should we just work with a third party? What would be the most appropriate solution for us? But also to get our client's view, and also our client's view of what we were doing, not just in terms of our technology, but our service. Because actually lots of the work we've been doing over the last year has been looking at how we provide the service and kind of what we're like to deal with. It's kind of quite refreshing to hear what your clients say about you. It's not always comfortable, must be said. But actually, unless you get some honest feedback, there's nothing you can do to improve. There's no ability for continuous improvement unless you really understand what the problems are and what you're doing well. So that review was a real kind of inside-out view of what we were doing, how our clients felt about Gemini, and how they thought we felt about Gemini. And out of that review has come a number of really significant things. So in terms of how we position Gemini, in terms of kind of reactivating an extractor development team. But again, thank you to all the clients that participated in that, because it really has provided some concrete strategy and actions for us to be able to take forward. We've also had our first Aura 2.0 launch. So those of you at the conference last year, we showed you our new version of the Aura front end, very much informed by our Halo project. So a complete change to the way that the core application looked and behaved. We had our first live implementation in November. A huge thank you to our Buttonot that agreed to work with us on this project. Which again was a project that we conducted in a very different way. We actually put our resources into their business. We didn't just ask them to test and feedback. We actually conducted the testing for them, with them, to their criteria. We then groomed our backlog of work that they needed to make it a full live implementation and delivered specifically for them. And then we've monitored how they're using the application since. So within the version they still have Classic, the old Classic client server application, but they also have Aura 2 that they're using. And over a period of time, we've seen that what started off with maybe one person using it, now the business use it for all functions. So we are now following that model again for further Aura rollouts. We have 2 in progress at the moment, much bigger, a greater, richer product set, none of them in the UK. But again, we're looking to do the same type of understanding with them, understand how they're using the software, what functions that haven't been delivered, because we're still ongoing with the project, what functions they need to deliver to make it a usable, practical, and a great experience for them. And for everyone else in the room, just so there's complete clarity, the versions that we're delivering at the moment have our Classic version and our Aura version together. If you're going into an Aura 2 version, it's not just that or nothing, it's exactly the same. So for all the clients that are looking at upgrades, I would really, really be interested in some of your feedback from having a look at Aura today, which is in the middle demonstration room. There's a team of 4 people that are demoing that for you, where you can hands-on and have a play yourself. Just to start talking about what your upgrade journey may look like and how you want to engage with us to kind of move you into that Aura 2.0 space. all of our HPD R&D is going into that front end. Which brings me to the next one, our onboarding module. That was also delivered in the same version that the Aura 2.0 client is currently operating in, which is version 7.2. Telma is here somewhere, she'll correct me if I'm wrong. And they work together, they coexist. So to use our onboarding module, you have to use the Aura 2 front end. The reason we developed the onboarding module was we wanted to kind of have a shift left in terms of where we start with our clients. Onboarding, we know, is a huge challenge for many of you. It's paper-based, it's slow, it's physical documents, possibly moving around a geographical area, waiting maybe for a physical sign-off. And there's lots of data and information that must be gathered. Ironically, it all starts electronic, and then you probably print it into a piece of paper and put it in a file somewhere. So our opportunity with onboarding was how we can digitize that first space. So this time last year at the conference, it was just a rolling demo that we were talking about building. Today, you'll see Leon demonstrating it. And he's demonstrating the onboarding of supply chain finance and taking it through to kind of first payment. So you'll be able to see the onboarding engine, which is a great workflow underneath it called Activity. And the benefit of that workflow is it's very business orientated. To change that from the standard workflow, you can do that. We can show you how to do that. It's not a coding job. It's not a technical job. It's a business process modeling tool. So it does mean that with Activity, we will be looking in the future to leverage that workflow to actually amend and change and develop many areas of the Lendscape platform to operate from that, to make some of our workflows, whether it be action management, how you take on a client, how you deal with audit and survey, so you can actually customize some of those business processes much more closely to how you want to work within your target operating model. We've also introduced at 7.2 a new open JDK. So there's been a lot of things in the press for kind of anyone that reads press involving Java about how Oracle are treating and changing the licensing and support model for their own JDK, which means that if you're on a certain version, you have to start paying. It's open-ish, but they now want you to start paying. So what we've done is we kind of did a bit of a review. What did we want to do as a business? Our versions that we release are built on a particular Java version, but going forward, we didn't want us or our clients to be constrained into a kind of a moving target in terms of how Oracle wanted to license and have paid support on the software. So we've gone for a new open JDK, which is available from version 7.2 onwards. It's called Zulu, and it's by Azure. So John, if he's anywhere in the room, he'll be very proud of me. I didn't say Azure, I said Azure. And that just gives our clients another option. People can stick with Oracle, that's fine. But actually, we want to make sure that we give you options, that we're not locking you into a corner, because that may not be part of your own strategic journey. We have completed our data center project. Now, moving into the new data center gives us a huge number of opportunities in terms of what we can host, how we can host, and most importantly, where we can host. Our data center provider has a footprint in most countries around the world. So where we do start to work in new territories, where there are issues over data sovereignty, and with the B word Brexit on the horizon, that we know there'll be conversations with clients. Those that maybe aren't familiar with GDPR and understanding that's already enshrined in UK regulations, so that's fine. But if there are issues, that we do have an option, that we do have a provider that we're working with, and we can have data centres located outside the EU, we can have data centres located outside the UK. So part of that project, while that was certainly very much about the clients we had at that time, strategically it opens up our opportunity for dealing with our clients globally. We have rolled out a new service desk. So we used to have a very old but much loved internal help desk tool, and we've replaced that with the Jira Service Desk. That's the first part of a bigger project that's looking at our internal tooling. Now, as with any project with change, it has not been without its challenges, both internally and certainly for some of our clients that are in the room that we know have kind of struggled with understanding what we're doing, why we're doing. And we do accept that probably in hindsight, it's not been the best communicated project. We've treated it very much as an internal piece with the ability for you to view our work queues as they relate to you, so you can view things online. In hindsight, we should have had a lot more communication with the client-facing teams to explain what we're doing and why. To that end, Tim Patrick and one of his colleagues, Caroline from Service Desk, are here at the conference today. They specifically requested to be here today because they want to speak to you about how you're finding Service Desk, issues that you have, what do you like, what do you not like, how can we change it. But that whole move to Jira Service Desk is also predicated on a larger, much larger project where we're looking at all of our internal tooling. So we will be removing all of our current tooling and go down a full Atlassian toolset route, simply because we want to start adopting more agile ways of working. We've done them on a small scale and they've been extremely successful, and we actually want to scale that now across the whole product group. So what does that mean for you as a client? Well, number one, it should mean that when we're doing development work, you can be engaged in that process sooner. It means we'll be looking to deliver pieces of code, functions, contained functions to you earlier to test. It means as a business we can deliver more frequently in smaller parcels, which makes it certainly easier to test. It makes the big upgrade less of a concern. But it's a thought and a mind change as much as anything else within HPD. It's not about us delivering and chucking it over the wall like a grenade to you to test, then chuck some stuff back. It's actually a little bit more about working more interactively with you. If we're building work for general sale, lots of the R&D things, or we're building something specifically for you, it's absolutely key to us that you are with us on that journey. We can't innovate unless we innovate with you. We can't work together unless we actually work together. So these type of projects that we've been doing, both Service Desk and the rest of the rolling in of an agile toolset across the business, isn't just about HPD and developers loving Jira, which clearly they do. It's actually about what that gives us as a business, a kind of a more agility in terms of what we deliver, and a more agile mindedness in terms of how open we are to inviting you kind of into more of the heart of our development process. The next couple of slides are distinguished by what they are. So the first one is delivery map. This is what is in to be delivered right now. So we know the size of it, we know when it lands, we roughly know who's going to build it. Lots of the work is around Gemini, and that's because the feed of this came from our Gemini review, and it came from work we were conducting with our clients who are specifically using our data extraction tool. The only one that's different to that is our Fire payment system, which is our open banking integration. So the first version of that came out about 3 or 4 weeks ago. So it's relatively new to the market. Really, really interested in your having a look at it. The guys from Fire are here. Todd is extremely passionate about this piece of work, and it's been his baby throughout. What we're trying to bring with the Fire integration is a different proposition to market. So a way of invoice finance actually feeling different as an experience to your customer. And the proposition that Todd will demo is a card, so a Fire card, a MasterCard, how you can pay at point of sale, paying for petrol, buying whatever on your card. And actually in the background, the API integration then will top up the real world proper bank account from availability. So what does that mean for your customers? So what that should mean for them is it's not about drawing down the availability, plonking it into their real world proper money bank account, and then kind of it's there when they need it. So kind of they take a payment and it's there when they need it. It's about taking what they need, maybe more frequently, but actually taking it when they need. So there are certain pieces of friction in the process. So we can't use our kind of HPD rules and your rules about how you authorise payments, because this is big boy stuff. This is the real world, real money. So we have to observe that kind of the proper process of releasing funds from Treasury. But that piece is handled by Fire, and they are the experts in that area. So that's not something that we have to worry about. It also deals with the open banking consent model. We don't have to build that because Fire already have that. That's in existence and in operation. So we can leverage into that. But what you will see is just a different proposition for payments. And from this, we hope then we'll have further integration. So the next type of integration that we're really looking at with Fire is how within our application you can open real bank accounts, you can open real trust accounts, potentially opening up the possibility, because they're easy to open and fast to open, opening up client and maybe debtor trust accounts you can maybe sweep into another bank account, but actually opening up a volume of bank accounts swiftly and quickly, and not having kind of the big feast of when you're going into kind of the real banking world, but actually putting these things together to be more seamless. We do have a number of extractors. So we've accepted that we've kind of got out of the habit of building extractors and updating extractors. So we have a team now currently of 5 that are ring-fenced to do extractor delivery work. Why these extractors? Because these are the ones that we were asked to deliver. We are kind of agnostic in terms of what we build. We will build what you need. So for your clients who are currently using our extraction product and ones that are thinking of it, we really do need a much higher level of engagement. We can't have you asking for an extractor on a Monday because you're doing a take-on Tuesday. We kind of need you to start to understand what you've already got out there in your client book, so we can have things ready for you when you need them, that we are not a delay in your journey, in your product journey. But where there are issues, because there are certainly some accounting packages that are kind of built into corners, old, installed packages. When it's an installed package, we have to get a copy of that software. And oddly enough, when HPD software contacts another software supplier and says, can we have a free version of your software because we're trying to take data from it, they're not that keen. So what we have instead is, we talked about it a couple of conferences ago, about having a more universal way of taking data out. And Matt Borton will be demonstrating where we are on that project. That is to be released later this year. So he's got the demonstration of that for you, or where he is, because right now, not a lot's written. But just this idea that for some clients that there'll be a map that either they'll complete or the service company can complete on their behalf, that they can pull data into that map. It does not have the granularity of an extractor. It doesn't have the kind of digital transactional footprint of an extractor. But actually, in terms of how it will feel for your clients, it will feel the same. After the first extract, it will feel the same. That map will be changed, that map will be saved. And if you take on another client that has the same dodgy piece of software, you have access to that map. So for that client, it's even easier. So this is about how we can broaden the reach of kind of data extraction, ease of application for your customers, how we can extend that in the market without actually having to worry about writing a particular extractor for this one particularly old piece of software. And again, we have another range of extractors. And also we have our document management piece due to land in that version as well. And that document management piece has been somewhere we've worked with a new client. That's part of their roadmap. And in one of our rooms today, Paul Hempenstall will be taking you through where we are with that. And where we are right now, very interestingly, is bits of paper, very undigital. But that's where all our R&D starts. It starts as a drawing up, a mental picture of kind of how this will work and how this will feel. So we will have a database engine in the back of that. We'll have a place to store the documents. The onboarding documents will eventually be relocated from the current database into that location. And then that becomes our first phase of a much wider document management piece. In the future, we see all reports that are generated go into the document management system. Anything that comes in from your client, whether it be contractual, whether it be identity management, whether it be audit or survey, if it's physical paper, we digitize it at the front end, we add it to the right location, and you can call that back. And calling it back is a view, it's an email out, it's sending out emails, it's sending invoices, sending delivery information, whatever it may be. But the piece of work that Paul was working on is our first iteration of that. The next bit is the roadmap. So the things that have asterisks on we've started work on. We just don't know the final days yet, but they have a rough slot, a delivery slot. Anything else kind of is a bit like, well, we're not quite sure. These are the things we're looking at. How it hardens onto the plan is very simple. Is there benefit in the market for HPD and HPD's customers for us to deliver this work? We are looking at lots of integrations. We are just finishing some quite big, meaty work, not necessarily the work you can see in front of you. It's actually some really significant client projects. So actually, some of the things we're looking at the moment are real integration points. They are API integration points. There is another company for open banking that operates much further afield. So they have access from open banking data from American banks and from Australian banks. We have an opportunity to work with those. We're really keen to have a look at how we can add some integrations into the front end of our onboarding engine, start to strip data out of something like Salesforce and use that for potentially leveraging in Lendscape into the more prospecting arena by plugging it into something else. But it does really depend, and that's one of the really important things I'd like to take away from the conference today. That's that we really do need your input into this. For us to be able to be building things that excite you or are interested in, or you can see you monetize, we really do need that feedback from you. And as we go later on, we kind of get back to some of the big things. We already have a piece of work on borrowing-based certificate that you can see in the R&D room where we are with that. naturally that starts to come into areas of syndication. So these are all things that we're looking at. And we've been toying with the idea of kind of leasing. It's something that we are really interested in developing as an add-on product. We know lots of you also have a leasing product somewhere, or you kind of maybe do a little bit of leasing on the side, might be on a spreadsheet. How we can actually bring that into the core platform so you can offer a much broader range of financial products. And then we get the kind of that over there stuff, the ideas map, kind of what do we see and what things are we looking at for the future. I've put blockchain up there because I've never been to a conference in the last 2 years where blockchain isn't mentioned somewhere. We don't know what we'd do with it, to be honest. We don't know if it's just there's many ways of doing it. Let's do a blockchain project just because we want to use the technology. If anything, that's probably what we'll do. There'll probably be another way of doing that work. We'll probably use a blockchain solution, integrate to one, because actually we want to just start trying the technology and see what it's like and seeing how we can work with it. Very much in the way we've done the Alexa integration. We're not saying voice is going to be right now, but it's definitely coming. So we kind of need to understand the uses and the use cases around that technology. We are looking really seriously about how we move Lendscape into a RESTful API. So rather than have that as the main communication method, because lots of the large companies we talk to, they're not interested in our front end. They want to strip that way and have some kind of a maybe microservice access direct to the back end. We can see that is one of the demands that will come from a platform that we have and for the way that our clients want to use that in the future. When we do this and how we do it, do we actually have our own SDK? Do we let other developers actually develop directly into our platform? Well, potentially. None of these things are kind of off book for us. But if there are other things that you think, actually, this is an idea you consider, we'd be really interested in hearing that. Because our ideas come from generally some of the technology stuff from our proper architects and technologists. It can be quite difficult to really understand what some of that is and what the practical application for that may be. We get a massive wealth of data from our sales and commercial teams because they are dealing with you every day. We get a lot of stuff from conferences, but what we don't really get is that kind of direct face-to-face interaction. So that is, again, one of the things to take away from today, that these type of ideas and these things that you're looking at, or maybe you've heard about, Bitcoin's not up there. I should have quickly popped that up there. But these are things that if you think that is part of your direction of travel, then we need that to be part of our direction of travel as well. And that can't happen unless there is more dialogue between us. And now to the conference, to kind of the goodies and the things that you're here to see today. So we effectively have kind of 4 zones for you to really be looking at. The first one is kind of their listening zone. And that is in the first room. And that is basically, there are some private meetings. So some of you have already booked slots with particular people to discuss very particular topics. In that room, we have Justin James, who'll be very well known to many of you. So he runs the technical services area, which includes our hosting. And they are having meetings that are talking about a variety of things. Ask us about the data center, talk about hosting. Some clients we just host test systems, some we obviously production and test. They are different scale, different sizes. We do lots of on-site consulting. He's just finished an absolutely enormous project for one of our French clients to move all of their systems from one physical location to a second physical location. 80 people working over the weekend, the biggest IT project they've ever delivered. We have a vast range of technical skills. They're there to ask questions, whatever it may be. What we provide, what you're doing, how can we help you? And also to start talking about how we can better help you long term. It can't just be one question. You've got a technical journey, we've got a technical journey. Let's kind of make sure we're on it together. Telma, who runs our test services, is running meetings on regression testing, and not just kind of our auto testing services, but also what we can do if we put our testers within your business. This is certainly something in our business model that we're looking at. To shorten our projects, actually, it might be better if we just were on site with you, that we did have proper joint project teams. We didn't train you and walk away. We actually were there with you for the journey, shortening the projects, get you maximum value about your application as quick as possible. As I mentioned earlier, Tim from Service Desk is here. He's again in the same room. Ask him any questions, any problems, any ideas that you've got, any things you don't like, literally dump it all on him. He's really keen to understand how you're feeling and what it's like. Don't tell him I told you that. But any problems, let him know. We can't deal with the problems unless we know what they are. And finally, our business consultants, who are rare to be in one physical location together, generally dispersed around the world, are there. Have you got questions about how do I do this? What should I do here? How would you do that? How could you train me on this module? Ask the question. They're here to help you. Our next area is the lab. So a couple of things I've already mentioned. Onboarding, which is kind of in the lab, but it's on its first release. The fire integration piece is in our lab. We've never really done a lab before. We've kind of shown you things that are just about released or just new out. What we really wanted to show you is some of the stuff that we are thinking about, are building, it's in progress. So not all of it is, can I touch your keyboards and play with it? Because some of it is bits of card, pointing to bits of card on how we're thinking and how we're going to do things. Whatever is up there, especially the kind of Alexa integration, their ideas, Alexa may never make it to a production model. We have no idea. It was an opportunity to play around with voice integration. How might it work? How might it feel? Could we get it working? Can it understand Dave's Irish accent, or do you have to really shout at it? Does it only work if you order toilet rolls? How are you going to use it? So go and have a look at that integration, because we can see there's a real potential and possibility here. All the questions about security, how secure is it? Well, if you're speaking your password, probably not very. So there are definitely, when I say barriers to make it production, but actually that general thing for your customer to talk to their online portal and say, what's my availability, make a payment, send a message, what are my messages? All that capability is there. Right, I'm being given the wind up. I'll be quick. This is the last one. Okay, the last zone is Lendscape Live. So please, please come and see the new look Aquarius, as it used to be called, our Lendscape platform with the Aura 2 front end. They're really keen to show you all the things that you can't do in Classic, whether it's lists and stripping and exporting, whatever it may be. Come and look at Halo. I know lots of you are already using Halo, but please, if you aren't, come and look at how the client portal looks. Come and look at how we're building interfaces for the future. And finally, the data extraction. There's a couple of our consultants there just kind of talking to you through Gemini if you don't have it. Right, that's me done. There was one thing actually, I didn't see it on the slide, I may have missed it, which is also within the lab, there's our learning zone. So last year at the conference, there was a kind of how do you feel about online learning? Would an online learning module be useful for you? And all of that feedback has been taken back and built, and that is something that you can use and buy now. So we have our first version of an online learning tool that's been run by our commercial team. It's an excellent tool. I'd really recommend that you go and have a look at it. It's a way of reducing your training costs and actually keeping your training going. No time for questions. Excellent. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Andrea.